Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. In 2023, I was in Marmaris with my best friend, and on our first night in Turkey around 11 p.m., we ended up at the funfair by the beach. At first, it felt exciting and harmless due to the fact that we just turned 18 and left college. We were just two girls on a holiday. But something happened that still sits in my chest to this day, and I do not know if I was overreacting or if we narrowly avoided something serious. While we were on one of the rides, I noticed the man staring at us. He was standing nearby the ride just watching us specifically, only us, with this intense focus. During the ride, my sunglasses fell off my head, and when it ended, the same man came up and gave them back to me. I thanked him and then walked off with my friend. We moved on to the next ride, and he followed and got on the same ride, and he sat directly in front of us and kept making eye contact with me the entire time. I started to feel genuinely nervous, and I could tell that my friend did too. When that ride finished, the man came off, but he stood at the queue of the ride watching us. Me and my friend decided to stay on the ride because now we were genuinely getting scared. We had one token left, so we decided to use it while we figured out what to do. During the whole ride me and my friend was on, the man kept staring at us, waiting literally at the entrance of the ride. And when the ride ended, I decided to pull out my phone and take a picture of him, just for safety reasons. When we left the ride, he kept following us around the funfair, and it gave me a terrible gut feeling. And then I looked at my friend and I told her that when I count down to 3, to take off our shoes and then run as fast as we can. He literally chased us through the streets, and we ran for about 10 minutes. Eventually, we ran into a restaurant and hid inside. He must not have seen us go in because he kept running straight past. We stayed hidden until we were sure that he was gone. What scares me even more is that he had a young boy, maybe 14 to 15 years old, with him the entire time that this happened. The boy was not walking ahead or playing. He stayed near the man, trailing behind him. Later that week, near our hotel, we saw him again. This time, he was on the beach watching a British woman sitting by herself. My friend and I rushed over to warn her. She was grateful, but I could not shake the feeling that if we had not acted when we did, something terrible could have happened to us. What could he have possibly wanted? Has anything like this happened to anyone else in Marmaris or Turkey in general? What does this sound like to you? This happened last year, and to this day, I still can't figure out what he wanted. I work at a small bookstore in a quiet part of town. It closes at 9 p.m., and since I usually work closing shifts, I walk to my car in the empty parking lot alone. It's a really safe area, or so I thought. About a week into my new shift schedule, I started noticing a man across the street. He wasn't doing anything at first, just leaning on a lamppost looking toward the store. The first night, I brushed it off. The second night, he was there again, same place, same posture. And by the third night, I knew that it wasn't a coincidence. He never approached, never said anything, just watched. I told my manager, but he said unless the guy came onto store property, there wasn't much to do. So I started leaving through the back door instead. For a few days it worked and he was gone. Until he wasn't. One night, I walked to my car and I found a sticky note on the windshield, and all it said was, "Why are you hiding?" There was no name, no number, just that one sentence. I decided that night that I wasn't going to run anymore. The next evening, I left work and saw him again across the street. So, I followed him. I didn't confront him. I just walked the same direction from a distance. He didn't look back once. He walked 3 blocks, turned into an alley near an old building, and then vanished. I'm serious. He just disappeared, and I ran to the corner, nothing. No doors, no noise, no shadow. He was just gone, and I never saw him again. But sometimes, when I leave work late, I still feel like I'm being watched, and I never park in the same place twice. I recently went to a friend's wedding where I encountered something really unsettling. I've known the groom, Tom, since college, and when he invited me to his wedding, I was genuinely happy for him. The ceremony was beautiful, and the reception was lively and fun. As the night went on, I found myself chatting with various guests, including a male cousin of the bride. Let's call him Derek for the story. And while he seemed nice enough at first, there was something about him that felt off. We talked for a bit, but I wasn't interested in him, so I tried to politely excuse myself and mingle with other people that I know. As the night progressed and the wedding began to wind down, the traditional bouquet toss was announced. I wasn't thinking of participating, but as the bouquet flew through the air, it was flying straight toward my face, and out of reflex, I caught it and the crowd cheered. I just laughed it off, even though I wasn't in a relationship or thinking about marriage anytime soon. After the wedding, I said my goodbyes and then headed to my car ready to go home. As I drove away, I noticed a car from the wedding that seemed to be going in the same direction as me. I didn't think much of it at first, assuming that they lived nearby. But as soon as I turned onto my street, the car followed. Something just felt off about it, and my instincts kicked in. I decided not to pull into my driveway, and instead, I drove to a well-lit coffee shop nearby and parked there. I didn't want this creep to know where my house was. The car pulled up behind me, and a sense of dread settled in when I saw Derek get out and then approach my vehicle. He knocked on my window, and I reluctantly rolled it down just a crack to see what he wanted. Derek tried to ask for my number, insisting that since I caught the bouquet, it was a sign that I needed to get married soon and that he was interested in me. And the first thing that really came out of my mouth was, "What the fuck?" The whole situation was so bizarre and incredibly uncomfortable. I told him that I was not interested at all and that getting the bouquet didn't mean shit. But he did not take no for an answer and insisted that I give him my number and that we can just start with a simple coffee date. I understood that this situation is just going to be a back and forth of me saying no and him not respecting it. So I decided that I wasn't going to entertain this any further. I rolled my windows up and I honked, which made him back away, and I sped off, making the light before Derek even had a chance to get back into his car. I drove home with my heart pounding. I parked in my garage, feeling a wave of relief as the door closed behind me. Now, I am seriously considering telling the bride about her cousin's creepy behavior. It's not something I want to deal with alone, and I feel that she should know. I just have this gut feeling that he's not going to stop here. But I'm a bit concerned on how she would react about it. Update. I decided to reach out to the bride and I told her about what happened with Derek. She was super apologetic and thanked me for letting her know. She mentioned that Derek is a bit of a weirdo and they only invited him because his family. She assured me that she would have a word with him and make sure that he doesn't bother me again. It's a bit comforting to know that she's on my side, and I'm hoping that this will be the end of it. If there are any more updates, I'll be back to let you guys know. My name is Tracy, and I'm 24 years old, and I live in the bustling city of Seattle, Washington. I have always loved the vibrant energy of the city, with its coffee culture and the ever-present drizzle that somehow adds to its charm. My story begins in the place that I find solace in, Starbucks. It was a typical rainy afternoon. I decided to treat myself to a caramel macchiato at the Starbucks on Pike Street. Since I wasn't in a hurry, I grabbed my coffee and I found a cozy seat by the window, just enjoying the ambience and watching people bustle by. As I sipped my coffee, a guy approached me. He looked to be in his late 20s with dark hair, a set of piercing blue eyes, and a chiseled jawline. He wore a well-fitted leather jacket and smelled of subtle masculine cologne. He asked if he could join me, and I couldn't help but be drawn to his charming smile and confident demeanor. Being single and, ready to mingle, I was open to new experiences, so I said yes. His name was Alex, and we immediately hit it off. He was witty, kind, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. We exchanged numbers before parting ways. We started texting, and later on, Alex and I started going on dates, and each one felt like a dream. We had picnics at Gasworks Park, enjoying romantic dinners at quaint little restaurants, and we took long walks along the waterfront. He was always attentive, holding open doors for me and making sure that I was comfortable. He had a way of making me feel special, and I soon found myself falling for him. Our dates were filled with laughter and deep conversations. He seemed perfect, the kind of guy that I have always dreamed of. And after a few months, we decided to make things official. Alex became my boyfriend, and for the first 3 months, he was everything that I could ever want. He was sweet, caring, and always made time for me. I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. But after 3 months, things started to change with Alex. He became cold and distant. When we went on dates, he would often ignore me and he's just glued to his phone. Conversations that once flowed so easily became strained and awkward. I tried to brush it off thinking that he might just be stressed with work, but his behavior persisted and it was really hurting me. At the same time, he also became controlling. Ironic, right? Whenever I went out with friends, he would bombard me with calls and texts, accusing me of cheating or lying about my whereabouts. The sweet, attentive guy that I fell for seemed to disappear, replaced by someone that I barely recognize. Yet, after these episodes, he would suddenly shower me with affection, apologizing profusely, giving me flowers, gifts, and then promising to change. But then, after everything is alright, he then goes back to being cold and distant, and then the cycle begins again. I just couldn't get it, like if I was with him, I would get ignored, But when I wasn't with him, he would turn into this controlling, clingy monster. Well, I reached my breaking point and I decided to end the relationship. Alex couldn't understand what he did wrong though. He became angry during the breakup. He was screaming and he was throwing things around my apartment. I had never seen him so enraged. He broke the picture frame and knocked over a lamp. Like, what the hell? This was a side to him that I was never expecting at all. A good thing that he was showing it this early though. But at that moment, I was extremely terrified, so I called the police. The police then arrived and managed to calm him down, and then they escorted him out of my apartment. Things were silent for a week, and I hoped that that was the end of it. All that I had to do right now was to move on and let go of him. But guess what? I was wrong. Alex showed up at my door with flowers, asking me to take him back. I explained that it was over and that I couldn't continue in a relationship that made me feel unsafe. He threw the flowers on the ground and just stormed out, and I thought that that would be the last that I would see of him. And you know what? I was wrong again. Alex began stalking me. He called and texted me constantly, begging for another chance, and then turning angry when I didn't respond. I started seeing his car parked near my apartment, and he would follow me to work and other places I frequented. I was hanging out with friends once, and we saw him sitting and drinking at another table all by himself, just staring at me. This guy that I once fell in love with was seriously freaking me out. One night, I was walking home from the grocery store when I noticed him trailing behind me. And my heart pounded with fear as I quickened my pace. I was so desperate to get home and just to get away from him. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. I was constantly looking over my shoulder and feeling unsafe in my own city. The situation reached its climax though one night when I was asleep. I woke up to the sound of banging on my door. I checked the time, and it was 2 a.m. It was Alex outside. He was shouting and he was demanding to be let in. He said that he just wanted to talk, but I was terrified. So I grabbed my phone ready to call the police when I saw red and blue lights flashing through the window. The police arrived, and it turned out that my neighbors had called them after hearing the disturbance. They took Alex away and I filed a police report. The ordeal left me shaken, but I was grateful for my neighbors and the swift response of the police. In the aftermath, I had to file a restraining order against him. I also took more steps to protect myself. I changed my phone number, I installed security cameras, and I took self-defense classes. If I had ignored the red flags in my relationship, things could have ended much, much worse. So, yeah, that's my story. My encounter with a charming stranger turned stalker taught me a valuable lesson about trust, safety, and resilience. I hope my experience serves as a cautionary tale and offers some comfort to others who might be going through similar situations. Please stay safe and always trust your instincts. Alright guys, let me know if this was as scary as I'm making it out to be in my mind. This afternoon, my friend was home alone and we were calling, and a guy knocked on her door. She looked out the window and it was a little blue van. Thinking that it was an Amazon worker, she opened the door and it was apparently a young man that did roof measurements. He asked if her parents are home and she said no. He asked what time she thought they would be back and she said around 6. He then started asking questions like, "Oh, what kind of dog you have?" Because her dog was barking in the background. She told him that she didn't really know his breed and that he was some weird mutt. He then complimented her eyes and her outfit and asked, "Are your parents at work or something?" And she replied, "Yes. My friend is a really attractive girl with big pretty eyes and a small petite body," which made it even more scary because you could tell that he was flirting. 10 minutes later, her dog starts barking again, and I was already telling her how weird it was that he was asking so many questions and how stupid it was that she just revealed that her parents wouldn't be home for a good amount of time. She looks out her window and there's no car outside, but her dog was still barking, but she was like, it's probably barking at a deer." And then there was a known rhythmic knocking on her door. I told her to absolutely not answer the door because it was probably that guy again. She wasn't really taking it that seriously, but it worried me so bad. She then saw the same guy walk away down her driveway, which was weird that he parked all the way down there where you couldn't see his car. Originally, he had pulled almost all the way in. After this, she left and drove to my house. But am I crazy? Maybe I just watched way too many true crime stories, but I thought that was so scary. He was young, and she said that he was attractive, so it was possible that he just came back around to ask for her number, and the questions were him attempting to converse. But who does that while on a job? Especially at someone's doorstep. Do you guys think that I'm just overreacting? I had always considered myself a pretty ordinary person, living a quiet life in a small town with my boyfriend Jason. We'd been together a couple of years and everything was going smoothly. That was until this strange encounter turned my world upside down. About a month ago, Jason came home from work looking a bit rattled. This wasn't like him. He's usually the calm and collected type. I asked him what was up, and after some hesitation, he told me about a man who had come into his workplace that day. The man had asked to speak with him directly, which wasn't entirely out of the ordinary, as my boyfriend managed customer service at a local hardware store. But the conversation that followed was anything but normal. The man, whom Jason described as scruffy and intense with an unsettling demeanor, asked, "Are you Jason?" When he confirmed, the man said something that sent chills down my spine. "Huh, I just wanted to meet the guy who's with the girl that I proposed to." Jason, thinking that it must be a mistake, asked who he was talking about. And then the man gave my full name. I was floored. Jason, trying to keep things polite, asked for the guy's name so he could tell me who stopped by. Instead, the man just stared at him with a death glare before turning and walking away without another word. As my partner recounted this to me, I could tell that it left him shaken. He's not easily intimidated, but something about the encounter had disturbed him deeply. My immediate reaction was confusion. As far as I knew, there was no one who could have possibly fit that description in my life. I've only had one person ever propose to me, and Jason had met him before. It was just a brief high school romance that ended amicably, and I didn't recognize the man from his description. Over the next few days, I racked my brain trying to think of anyone who remotely fits the scenario. I thought through friends of friends, old classmates, even acquaintances from social gatherings. But nothing and no one really clicked to me. Jason assured me none of these people matched the man he saw. Just as I was starting to chalk it up to someone with a bizarre mix-up, I noticed something unsettling. My dance bag was missing from my car. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but the thing is, I only ever leave my car unlocked at home. It's an unspoken rule in our quiet neighborhood. Everyone knows everyone, and thefts are rare. Besides, my car had much more valuable items than a bag of worn out shoes and leotards. Why would someone steal that? I try to reason with myself, maybe I'd accidentally left the car unlocked somewhere else. But it didn't add up, and a knot of unease began to twist in my stomach. Was it possible that the man from Jason's work had something to do with this? As days turned into weeks, my anxiety grew, and I started noticing small strange occurrences around our house. Objects slightly out of place, the feeling of being watched, odd sounds at night. And I mentioned it to Jason, who agreed that we should be more vigilant. We started double checking locks and keeping a lookout for any unusual activity. One evening, as we were getting ready to head out for a dinner date, I glimpsed a shadowy figure standing just beyond the circle of light cast by our porch lamp. My heart skipped a beat. I nudged Jason, who instantly turned to see, but by the time that he looked, the figure was gone. I tried to shake it off as paranoia, but deep down, I couldn't dismiss the possibility that it was the same man lurking. But time passed, and with no further incidents, I convinced myself to move on. Until one night, when I was home alone since my boyfriend had to work late, I had settled into the couch with a movie and also a glass of wine. Halfway through, the power suddenly flickered and then went out, plunging the house into darkness. I froze, my mind racing through all the horror movie scenarios that I have ever seen. And gathering my courage, I reached for my phone to use the flashlight and then checked the circuit breaker. As I moved through the hallway, I heard a soft, deliberate tapping at the window, the kind of sound that makes your skin crawl. Peering through the curtains, my heart pounded as I saw the same shadowy figure standing in the yard, looking directly at me. Panic surged through me, and I called Jason immediately, my voice shaking as I explained what was happening. He promised to drive back as fast as he could, and then told me to hang up and call the police. It felt like an eternity before I saw the familiar flash of the police lights. Jason also arrived shortly after, and together they scanned the yard. But the figure was gone, leaving only footprints in the soft soil. The police took a report and promised to patrol the area more frequently, but I could see in their eyes that they thought that it might just be nerves or an overactive imagination. But seriously? Imagination my ass, there were footprints. I wish I could say that that was the end and that the presence of the police scared them off, but it wasn't. Though we never saw the shadowy figure again, I continued to receive mysterious unsigned notes on my doorstep. They were filled with cryptic messages about knowing me and wanting to talk, sometimes even referring to the proposal that never happened. The notes were chilling, as if it was written by someone who knew my life intimately. I tried to contact the police again, but they said that the notes were not enough as proof or help to find whoever was doing this. It was just so unbearable that I finally ended up begging my boyfriend to move places. And we did find a new place in a different part of town, hoping that distance would finally sever whatever connection the stranger thought he had with me. And since moving, the incidents have stopped and life has returned to a semblance of normalcy. I'm not sure what happened, if they lost interest, if they couldn't find me, if it was a neighbor or something. I'm just glad that it stopped. So to the stranger who disrupted my peace and left me questioning my safety, let's never meet again. Hi, I wanted to share this creepy experience that I had in university. For context, I'm a female. For a while, everything seemed fine at school. My classes were going well, and I was enjoying time with friends. But then, out of nowhere, strange things started happening. It began with small unsettling incidents. My things moved around and were at places that I'm sure I didn't leave them on. I thought that it was just my exhaustion or stress because of the exams coming up soon. But then some things went missing entirely. Not just random stuff at home that I could brush off, but things that were very personal to me, like my journal and some underwear. I know, it's a bit embarrassing. I also had this persistent feeling of being watched that I couldn't quite explain. It was unnerving, something like a shadow in the corner of my eye that vanished when I tried to focus on it. I really didn't know who to turn to. I didn't want to worry my parents, so I decided to confide in my longtime friend, Josh. We had known each other for years, and he had always been someone that I could rely on. A best friend, you can call him that. When I told him about the stalking and the weird experiences I was having, he was very sympathetic, and he suggested practical things to help me feel safer. He advised me to change the code on my locker and become more cautious about my routine, and for a while, it felt reassuring to have his support. But despite these measures, the stalking and strange occurrences continued. Whoever it was seemed to know things no one else should, like the new combination to my locker. I couldn't figure out how they were doing it. Only Josh knew about the new combo. He was there when I changed it, and I trusted him completely. But as the incidents persisted, doubt began to creep in my mind. I had a theory, and I wanted to test it. I changed my lock combination without telling Josh, and after that, nothing in my locker was ever disturbed again. I stopped leaving a spare key under my mat and then changed the locks on my bedroom door, and nothing in my house, specifically my room, was disturbed again. Just to note, as I mentioned, Josh has been a friend for years, and he knew about the key under the mat since he visits my house from time to time, and there has been multiple instances when I was too lazy to open the door and I just told him to use the key under the mat. I felt a mix of relief and dread as the evidence pointed in a troubling direction. I began making other changes too, small things like varying my schedule and keeping details to myself. And each time, the stalkers seemed to be out of the loop, confirming what I was beginning to fear. My heart sank as I realized that Josh, my trusted friend, could be behind all of this. It was a difficult realization, but I knew that I had to distance myself. I started avoiding him, ignoring his texts and his calls, and I didn't respond when he asked to meet up. I blocked his number after he repeatedly tried reaching out. One day, as I was heading home, I noticed him waiting outside my house. Panic gripped me, and I quickly went inside, locking the door behind me. My dad was home early, and he noticed Josh loitering outside. He then went out to confront him, firmly telling him to leave. Josh eventually walked away after some stern words from my dad. And later that night, I sat down with my dad and mom and shared everything that I had pieced together about the stalking. My dad was furious and he wanted to confront Josh himself, but my mom and I managed to calm him down, and instead, he decided to call Josh's parents, explaining the situation and demanding that they tell Josh to stay away from me. After that call, the stalking incidents became less frequent. It was as if the message had finally gotten through. Over the next few months, everything stopped completely. I never spoke to Josh again, and part of me is sad about the loss of our friendship. But I also felt a profound sense of relief knowing that that chapter of my life is over. I just saw another post on this sub, and it made me think about this weird dude that I met last year. So I decided that I want to do a little story time because I totally forgot this happened to me a bit ago. I'm 20 now, and this happened in like October or November, so not even a year ago. I was homeless and I was couch hopping with friends or sleeping in my friends' cars, and I was drinking a lot and etc. One of my friends had met this dude in the same neighborhood who they did deals with. This neighborhood is known for old crackheads basically. So he was a bit younger, but looked like he definitely dabbled in some hard drugs. He had a sunken face and eyes with scabs on his face too. He was generous and welcoming though. He was obsessed with his cat, so I thought he was an innocent guy. Her BF, and I think one or two more people and I go and chill to drink at his house. He was a cool dude, a little weird, but he was alright, and I can get along with weird people. After a few hours roll by and everyone's ready to go home, my friend asked me where I needed to go for the night. I, of course, didn't have a plan. I never did. And that guy then offered to let me stay there after hearing my situation. I said yes very hesitantly because for some reason, my skin kind of crawled when he offered. I don't know if it was intuition or what, and my friend then insisted and said that I should stay there if I have nowhere else. I then agreed, and then everyone left. He then yapped my ear off about spiritual things that didn't make sense. He then said that he was going to bed and offered for me to sleep in his room. I walked into his room to check it out, and he had a day bed that pulls out another bed at the bottom. So I was like, okay, I don't have to sleep with him, so this could work. Also, I forgot to mention, this is a trailer home that was not very well kept up with. The dishes were nasty and piling up, and they were attracting all sorts of bugs. The counters were covered in resin, tobacco, soda, just looked like it's never been cleaned before. The living room was clean, but that was it. He then started clearing some clothes off the upper part of the bed so he can lay down, and then stopped and was like, never mind. We can both just sleep on the bottom one. I then looked at him and said, you know what? I think I'll just sleep on the couch. It's okay. He then insisted that it was okay and that he wasn't gonna be weird. And he was acting like a kid begging me to buy him a toy. I insisted on sleeping on the couch, and then he got upset and then laid in his bed. But then like 30 minutes later, he says from the other room something like, you know what? This is weird. Maybe you should just stay here. He then proceeds to say that he needs to be alone, and I'm like, dude, at this point, it's 3 a.m. You're whining because I won't sleep in the bed with you. I don't know you. And then, he kept insisting on me sleeping in the room with him. I keep declining and I say that I'm going to sleep. He says fine, but that he's kicking me out in the morning, and that was totally okay with me. Morning comes around and he wakes up making pancakes. I then ask if he can drop me off at work since I'm working in the morning. He said yes and acted like nothing happened the night before, and then started yapping my ear off again about spiritual bullshit. It was time for me to go to work, so I finally leave this man's house and he drops me off at work. I work all day, and while I was still at work, during night, he somehow got my number from someone and then texted me. He said something like, "Hey, I got a case of beer and some weed if you want to come over." I told him that I had other plans, and then he texted me that I said that I told him that I would hang out with him later. Well, I never said that, so I just ignored him. He then texted me a couple more times with a question mark or a hello, and I ignored all of them. Fast forward, I think a week or two later, this man then comes into my job and asks someone for a job interview. I recognized him, and I was very scared because I did not want him working with me at all. He gets an interview from my manager somehow, and then he leaves. My coworker came up to me and was like, "Hey, have you seen that weird dude that just came in?" I mentioned that I somewhat knew him and that he is in fact very weird. He then brought up that maybe he was trying to stalk me. This was a joke at first and we laughed about it, but then he continued his work, but he did warn the managers about what I told him just in case, and the manager emailed him immediately saying that he wasn't hired, and I was very relieved. But then, I shit you not even an hour later, this guy comes back to my job with a different outfit and then asks for an interview. This time he was looking around the place all sketchy, and I then ran into the bathroom because now I think this man is stalking me for real. Thankfully, the first person that saw him was my coworker who I was just talking to, and thank God, he seems to be a smart, protective man because he then tells the creepy guy that he just came in an hour ago and already got an interview and didn't get hired, and that he needed to get the hell out. He did leave, but not without a bit of arguing. After I got out of the bathroom, my coworker gave me the rundown on what happened and said that the guy was definitely bad news and told me to never go near that guy again, and I haven't. I don't know what could have transpired from that, but it probably wasn't anything good. And here's the riddle for this video. Hey everyone, this is your creepy sister. Thank you so much for watching the video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to leave a like and a comment. It really helps the channel out. A big shout out to both my channel members and Patreon members. Thank you so much for taking your support to the next level. You guys are great. And again, to everyone, stay scared because your fear feeds me.